Hello, my fellow Earth lovers, and welcome back to Earthly Delights. Have you ever stood in your garden in the middle of peak summer, feeling that heavy heat on your shoulders while your favorite plants begin to wilt under the burning sun? Have you ever looked down at the soil, watched it turn dry and dusty, and felt that quiet guilt because you know water is becoming more precious, more limited, and more expensive every year? I have seen this happen in gardens, farms, raised beds, and backyard containers more times than I can count. We pour water over our plants, sometimes by the gallon, and yet so much of it disappears before the roots ever get a proper drink. The sun takes it. The wind takes it. Bare soil loses it almost instantly. But what if the answer is not an expensive irrigation system from a garden center? What if one of the smartest ways to protect your garden from drying out is already sitting in your kitchen trash, your recycling bin, or beside your sink? Today, we are stepping into the practical magic of the zero-waste garden. I am going to share simple, powerful waste hacks that can help your plants stay hydrated at absolutely zero cost. We will turn everyday scraps into liquid gold, soil sponges, slow watering systems, and moisture-saving tools. The bigger question is this: are we just using things and throwing them away, or can we become better stewards of the soil by turning waste back into life? Grab your gardening gloves, open your mind, and let's get our hands dirty. Part 1. The Plastic Bottle Lifesaver. Let's begin with one of the biggest enemies of a summer garden: surface evaporation. When you water with a hose, the water often goes everywhere except exactly where it is needed. It splashes onto the leaves, which can encourage fungal problems, and a large amount evaporates before it ever reaches the root zone. In hot weather, that is wasted water and stressed plants. One of the easiest ways to outsmart the sun is with a clean 2-liter PET plastic bottle. By turning it into a simple subsurface drip irrigator, you can deliver water directly into the rhizosphere, the root zone where the plant can actually absorb and use it. Here's how I like to do it. First, take a clean plastic bottle and remove the label. Then use a hot needle or a very small 1mm drill bit to make 2 or 3 tiny holes in the bottom third of the bottle. Keep those holes small. If they are too large, the water rushes out too quickly, soaking the soil all at once and possibly creating soggy, low-oxygen conditions that can lead to root rot. What we want is a slow, steady drip that feeds the plant gradually. Next, cut off the bottom of the bottle so it becomes a wide funnel for easy refilling. Dig a hole beside a thirsty plant, such as a tomato, squash, or zucchini, and bury the bottle cap side down so it sits firmly in the soil. Fill it with water, and that water will slowly seep into the root zone, helping keep the soil evenly moist for around 10 hours. To prevent soil from clogging the tiny holes, you can slip a piece of old nylon stocking over the cap as a simple filter. Another useful trick is the nested bottle method, where you place the watering bottle inside the cut base of another bottle to help shield the drip holes. It is simple, free, and surprisingly effective. On a brutally hot day, that steady underground drink can be the difference between a plant that struggles and a plant that keeps growing strong. Part 2. The Magic of Weak Action in Styrofoam. Now, if you garden on a balcony, patio, or small space, or if you simply want a growing bed that almost waters itself from below, then a wicking bed is one of the smartest systems you can build. A wicking bed is a contained growing setup that uses capillary action. In simple terms, it pulls water upward from a hidden reservoir at the bottom into the soil above. It works much like the way groundwater supports plants in nature. Instead of watering from the top and losing moisture to heat and evaporation, the water rises slowly from below, right where the roots can reach it. You can build one from a discarded polystyrene foam box, the kind grocery stores often use for produce like broccoli or grapes. These boxes are lightweight, free in many places, and surprisingly useful because they insulate the root zone from harsh summer heat. Start by filling the bottom 2 to 4 inches of the foam box with coarse gravel or scoria. This becomes your water reservoir. Then place a piece of PVC pipe upright in one corner, with the bottom of the pipe resting in the gravel. This pipe becomes your filling tube or snorkel. Next, drill a small overflow hole in the side of the box, right at the top of the gravel layer. This is important because it prevents the bed from flooding during heavy rain. After that, lay a piece of permeable fabric over the gravel, such as old hessian, shade cloth, or another breathable material. This keeps the soil from falling down into the reservoir while still allowing water to wick upward. Finally, fill the box with rich compost-heavy soil and plant your vegetables, herbs, or strawberries. When you pour water down the snorkel, it fills the gravel reservoir. From there, moisture slowly rises into the soil, keeping the roots hydrated with far less effort than a regular pot. You water less often, waste less water, and give your plants a more stable moisture supply. It is a smart, elegant, closed-loop garden system built from something most people would throw away. Part 3. The cardboard controversy, sheet mulching for moisture. Let's talk about the surface of the soil, because this is where many gardens quietly lose the battle against heat. Bare soil is wounded soil. When it sits exposed under the sun and wind, moisture escapes quickly, the surface hardens, and weeds move in before your vegetables have a fair chance. In sustainable gardening, one of the simplest ways to protect that soil is called sheet mulching. Instead of spending money on synthetic landscape fabric, which can eventually break apart into frustrating plastic shreds, we can use something many households already have in the recycling bin: plain cardboard and newspaper. When you lay cardboard over the soil, it works like a protective barrier. It blocks sunlight, cools the soil, holds in moisture, and smothers weeds before they can take over. But cardboard is not only a cover, it becomes food for the soil. As the cellulose breaks down, earthworms and beneficial microbes begin feeding on it. They create tiny channels through the soil, improve aeration, and slowly turn that cardboard into rich humus that holds water like a sponge. But this is where we need to be careful, and this is why I call it the cardboard controversy. Not every piece of cardboard belongs in the garden. Use only plain, unbleached brown corrugated cardboard. Remove all plastic tape, shipping labels, and stickers. Avoid glossy boxes, waxy packaging, and heavily colored inks, because some of these materials may contain heavy metals or PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals. As gardeners, we are responsible for the health of our soil. We do not want to protect our plants from drought while accidentally adding harmful materials to the food we are growing. Soak the clean brown cardboard with water. Lay it directly over the soil and cover it with 3 to 4 inches of organic wood chips or straw. Do this well, and your soil will hold moisture longer, stay cooler, and breathe a little easier. Part 4. Kitchen scraps as soil sponges. Now let's move from the recycling bin to the kitchen, because some of the best moisture-saving tools for your garden are the scraps most people throw away. In the United States alone, food waste takes up around 24% of landfill space. When organic waste is buried in a landfill without oxygen, it produces methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. But when we compost those same scraps, we turn them into soil gold. Compost is one of the most effective ways to improve the water-holding capacity of your garden. It helps soil particles bind together into healthy aggregates, allowing the soil to absorb water, hold it longer, and release it slowly to plant roots during dry weather. Let's look at 3 kitchen heroes. First, banana peels. They are rich in potassium, calcium, and magnesium, all useful for healthy growth, flowering, and fruiting. You can bury banana peels directly in the soil near your plants, or soak them in water for a couple of days to make a potassium-rich liquid feed. Second, eggshells. Eggshells are mostly calcium carbonate, and calcium is important for strong plant cell walls. It can also help reduce problems like blossom and rot in tomatoes. But there's one important detail. Eggshells break down very slowly. To make them useful, wash them, dry them, and crush them into a fine powder before adding them to the soil. Third, used coffee grounds. Coffee grounds are excellent when handled properly. As they break down, they offer a helpful carbon-to-nitrogen balance, and earthworms love them. Despite the common myth, brewed coffee grounds are usually close to pH neutral, so they will not suddenly turn your whole garden acidic. As microbes digest them, they help bind soil particles into stable, well-draining structure that can still hold moisture. But never spread coffee grounds as a thick layer on top of the soil. They can dry into a crust that actually repels water. Always mix them into compost, blend them lightly into the soil, or cover them with mulch. and keep them under 20% of your compost pile so the balance stays healthy. Part 5. Liquid gold from the sink. Now prepare to look at your kitchen sink differently. How many times have you washed rice, boiled pasta, or cooked vegetables, then poured that cloudy water straight down the drain? In many cases, that water is not waste at all. It is liquid gold for the garden. Rice water contains starches, proteins, vitamin B, and important minerals like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. When you pour that milky water onto the soil, it acts like a natural biostimulant. The starches feed beneficial soil microorganisms, including helpful bacteria, and those microbes support stronger root activity and better plant growth. If you want to take rice water even further, you can ferment it. Place the washed rice water in a glass jar, cover it with a breathable cloth, and leave it in a dark place for 3 to 5 days. Over time, the water becomes more translucent and develops a slightly sour smell. That fermentation process makes the nutrients more active and lowers the pH, making it especially useful for acid-loving plants such as tomatoes, peppers, and blueberries. Just remember to dilute fermented rice water with an equal amount of fresh water before using it, because it can become too strong if applied directly. You can also save cooled, unsalted pasta water or the nutrient-rich water left after boiling vegetables. But the golden rule is simple: absolutely no salt. Salt damages soil life and can burn plant roots. So save that plain cooking water, let it cool, use it wisely, and your garden will reward you with stronger, healthier growth. Part 6. Greywater, the untapped river in your home. Now let's step back and look at the larger picture of water inside the home. Many people think only about the water that comes from the garden hose, but baths, showers, and laundry can account for roughly 37% of a standard home's water use. That gently used water is called greywater, and as long as it has not touched human waste, it can become an untapped river for the garden. During a serious drought, redirecting shower or laundry water into the landscape can save a large amount of drinking water, sometimes up to 50% in the right setup. But we cannot simply pour soapy, lint-filled water straight onto delicate vegetables and expect good results. It needs basic filtering first. A simple low-cost gravity filter can be made with a large bin or drum using 4 layers. At the top, muslin cloth catches hair, lint, and larger particles. Beneath that, coarse gravel helps filter medium debris. Then a deeper layer of pool sand traps suspended solids. At the bottom, crushed charcoal, such as charcoal from a natural wood fire, helps absorb impurities and reduce odors. The water that comes out can be used for trees, shrubs, and ornamental plants. But there are important rules. Use eco-friendly soaps that are low in sodium and free of phosphates. Never store greywater for more than 24 hours, because bacteria can multiply quickly and turn it into unsafe black water. And always apply greywater directly to the soil or mulch basins. Do not spray it onto the leaves of vegetables you plan to eat raw. Part 7. The dark side of plastic. We've talked a lot about reusing materials and giving household waste a second life in the garden. But as responsible gardeners, we also need to face an important truth. Not every piece of trash belongs in the soil. This is where we need to talk seriously about the dark side of plastic. It can be tempting to use cheap PVC pipes for irrigation or leave old plastic pots sitting outside until they crack in the sun. But science has raised real concerns about this. Polyvinyl chloride, or PVC, is a highly problematic plastic. When it is exposed to heat and UV light, it can break down and release harmful substances, such as phthalates and heavy metals, into the soil. Some studies have shown that edible plants, including crops like lettuce and carrots, can absorb phthalates through their roots. That means chemicals from degraded plastic may move from the soil into the food we bring to the table. And the problem does not stop there. As plastics age and break apart, they become microplastics and nanoplastics. These tiny fragments can change soil pH, clog soil pores, and disturb the living community of microbes that healthy soil depends on. Earthworms can ingest them, which may reduce their survival, and research has even found impacts on ground-nesting wild bumblebees. So if you use plastic in the garden, be cautious. Avoid PVC, also known as plastic number 3. If plastic is necessary, choose more stable options such as high-density polyethylene, HDPE number 2, or polypropylene, PP number 5. And the moment any plastic container becomes brittle, faded, cracked, or discolored, remove it and recycle it properly. Protecting soil purity must always come first. Part 8. The philosophy of the zero-waste garden. This brings us to the deeper meaning of gardening in today's world. When we look carefully at nature, we begin to understand something powerful. In a forest, a meadow, or a healthy wild ecosystem, there is no real waste. Fallen leaves, broken branches, animal remains, rainwater, and decay all return to the cycle and become part of new life. The idea of trash is mostly a human invention. But when we change the way we see things, we can begin to unlearn that wasteful habit. When we use a discarded soda bottle to deliver slow, life-saving water to a thirsty plant, we are closing the loop. When we ferment rice water and turn it into a living tonic for the soil, we are joining an old natural process that gardeners have respected for generations. A zero-waste garden is not only about saving money on your water bill, although that is certainly a wonderful benefit. It is about resilience. It is about building a small, self-sustaining sanctuary that can handle heat, drought, and the growing challenges of a changing climate. It teaches patience. It teaches observation. It reminds us that every scrap, every drop, and every handful of soil has value when we use it wisely. Each time you compost kitchen waste or filter a bucket of laundry water for the garden, you are making a quiet but powerful choice for a healthier, greener planet. So, my friends, the next time you are about to throw an eggshell into the garbage, pour starchy pasta water down the drain, or toss a cardboard box away, pause for a moment. Look at that so-called trash and ask yourself, how can this serve the earth? How can this bring life back into my garden? You now have practical ways to build wicking beds, create subsurface drip irrigators, filter greywater, make fermented biostimulants, and turn kitchen scraps into soil-building compost, all with little to no cost. Used wisely, these simple methods can help your garden become greener, stronger, and far more resistant to dry weather. I would love to hear from you. What is the most creative way you have reused household waste in your garden? Share your own trash hacks in the comments so our whole community can learn from one another. If this inspired you to see your garbage in a new way, please hit the like button, share it with a fellow gardener, and subscribe to Earthly Delights for more deep dives into sustainable gardening. Until next time, keep your hands dirty, keep your plants hydrated, and remember, the earth delights in those who care for her. Happy gardening!